Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, football fans of all ages. This is Tim May along with.
Bill Rabinowitz, and welcome to our second video cast. Hopefully this will be a little smoother. We did okay last week, but, hopefully we got some of the kinks worked out.
Yeah, true that. I'm not as nervous as I was this time a week ago, Bill, when we were trying this technology out for the first time, a technology that's been around, I think, since the turn of the century. But I digress. Let's just jump right into it. Ohio State coming off a 66-0 win over Kent State, had a bye week. Well, it was a bye in terms of they didn't play anybody, but they spent all week practicing extremely hard, to going ones against ones, twos against twos, getting after it on the practice field, and the players all seemed to enjoy it. So did Coach Urban Meyer. All of this was to prepare them for, despite how they played against Virginia Tech, we all knew that the Cincinnati passing attack was going to be the first real acid test for this overhauled, revamped, whatever you want to call it, defense that Ohio State put together in the offseason. And here we are a couple days away, and it's facing them face-to-face.
Yeah, Virginia Tech ran a lot of rollout passes, which was smart for the quarterback they had, the receivers they had. They didn't really threaten Ohio State downfield. Obviously, Kent State wasn't capable of it. Navy didn't try it. So since then, I watched the beginning of that Toledo game, and boy, they look good. I guess they didn't look as good, certainly against Miami, a much tougher game than people thought. And I'm sure Cincinnati thought maybe they were just looking ahead to Ohio State. But Gunnar Kiel, who bounced around several places, one of the top quarterbacks in the country as a high school senior, he showed against Toledo in last week that he's the real deal. And this really will be, as you said, the acid test for this revamped Chris Ash defense.
And the thing about Cincinnati is there's no pretense really to what they do. They throw the ball like 57, 58% of the time. At least they have in the first two games, both of which they had the handle on in those games. I mean, they had a fight on their hands really last week a little bit with Miami of Ohio, but Gunnar Kiel's pretty much going to stand in the pocket right there, stand right in the face of a blitz, and try to deliver the ball. They've got as you pointed out, they've got a talented set of wide receivers, and led by Mikhail McKay, a transfer from University of Arkansas, who actually transferred back to UC last year so he could be near his ailing grandmother, who's in his hometown of Louisville, Kentucky. And he didn't play a lot last year, but he averaged about 30 yards a catch on his 16 catches, and 7 of those were for touchdowns. He's already got 12 catches this year with Gunnar Kiel in 2 games, and but he's a leader of that pack. But they've got several guys, including Shaq Washington, that will present problems for this defense, or at least let's put it this way, will present a real test for this defense.
Right, and McKay, he went to Arkansas, as you said. He played. Obviously, Chris Ash came from Arkansas, so he's familiar with McKay. It'll be an interesting matchup because, let's face it, this is what we've waited for since Chris Ash was hired. They vowed to challenge every pass. They're going to get in people's faces. Duran Grant talked to us the other day. He's looking forward to the challenge. I think one of the key guys in this game is going to be Eli Apple, because he's not been tested, a redshirt freshman, highly recruited guy, and he's going to be put. I'm sure that Cincinnati is going to really target him.
Well, I would correct you on 2 things. Number one, Eli Apple did get tested a little bit in that Virginia Tech game,
Yeah.
A couple of third down plays. And then Chris Ash never really coached on a team with McKay on it, because McKay left after the 2011 season to get back. I mean, he was to get back to Cincinnati, and he was given clearance to play immediately. And so he's sitting there right now. It's I don't know. This whole Ohio State defense to me is a bit of a mystery, only because they really haven't faced the attack they're going to face on Saturday, which is sit back there and throw the ball at you. And when Michigan did that last year, and if some of those teams did it, really that defense almost fell apart. And as I was talking to Joshua Perry, the outside linebacker from Ohio State, about that this week, he goes, yes, as that season went on last year, it became almost disheartening the way some teams were able to convert, even though Ohio State sort of knew what was coming. And so they're all champing at the bit to to show they've rectified it. As Tyvis Powell said in the story I had in Wednesday's Dispatch, they want to show the world, or at least show Buckeye Nation, which I think goes around the world, that they have changed, that they have fixed things. But the proof is in the showing. So we'll see on Saturday night. I'm more interested, and probably you are too, to see Ohio State's offense go against Cincinnati's defense. As I keep pointing out, yes, there are things to worry about Cincinnati's offense, but I also see a defense that has some possibilities for Ohio State if it can protect and throw the ball.
Yeah, I would think Ohio State should be able to move the ball as long as they don't kind of self-destruct, as long as they don't have turnovers, as long as they don't have crucial penalties, drop passes, which obviously hurt them a lot against Virginia Tech. So if Ohio State does what it's supposed to do, if J.T. Barrett comes to play, which I'm sure he will, he's certainly done that in the first 3 games, they should be able to move the ball. And to me, the key to the game is going to be, can Ohio State on defense get a couple of turnovers, get a couple of big plays, get some third down stops. Yeah, because Cincinnati's going to move the ball. I'll be surprised if Gunnar Kiel doesn't throw for 300 yards. The danger is if he throws for 400 or more. It's not as if they're going to shut this team down. It's just a matter of – go ahead.
No, I was going to say Urban Meyer had a great line last week. Remember when he was asked, you're worried about some team throwing it 75 times? He goes, no, I'd be worried about them completing it 75 times.
Right.
Which is a great point. I mean, this team lives by the pass, or at least it has the first 2 games under Gunnar Kiel. They're not going to change, and they're going to have some success. I mean, they do it too much, and they've got too many quality players involved to not have some success, especially against a defense that, if it's true to its word, is going to have a lot of press coverage, maybe some man-to-man and a lot of man-to-man involved. You're going to get guys open on occasion. The key is in that red zone, how Ohio State goes against that offense in the red zone. And that's in our Game Day Plus section this week, my play of the week is a play that Cincinnati has had some success with in the red zone. And be sure to pick up a copy this Saturday. But yeah, I mean, they're going to have some success. You know that. The key is how you defend them in the red zone, and do you keep them off the scoreboard for the most part.
And one of the keys will be getting a pass rush, and obviously Ohio State would have benefited greatly if Noah Spence had been around, but obviously that's not the case. Steve Miller has replaced him. They're going to have to get some push from inside. I think an inside rush against Gunnar Kiel, because he's not really a scrambler. He can run, but that's not what he really wants to do. If you can get some pressure up the middle with Adolphus Washington and Michael Bennett, then that'd be huge. Obviously Joey Bosa is a star and needs to play like one. Obviously, this is the big game for Adolphus Washington, who's my game day cover subject, a Cincinnati guy, got his first scholarship offer from Cincinnati. That's kind of what made him think, maybe this football thing might be the ticket, as opposed to basketball, which he was a star there at Taft High School. So I think the defensive line, which is supposed to be one of the best in the country, obviously that was when they thought they'd have Spence. This is a huge game for them, because I don't care how good you are as a cover cornerback. If you have a guy like Gunnar Kiel and those receivers, you cannot hold them down by yourselves. You need help from that defensive line.
Yeah, I agree, and that goes without saying. I mean, really, this is a guy who likes to sit in the pocket, so if you can pressure from the inside out, I mean, that's the best way to attack a guy like that. Adolphus Washington, it's funny when you said that, because I remember when he committed, I was down there for his little commitment press conference, and was a very good high school basketball player. But as the old saying goes, 6'5", 6'4", 6'5" forwards are a dime a dozen. 6'5" guys who can move like he can with the size he has are still at a premium in major college football and on up into the NFL. So he made the right choice. I think he knows that, and so that's going to be interesting just to see him kind of be fired up about going against his hometown school. The other guy, obviously Kerry Combs used to coach on that staff down there, Ohio State's cornerbacks coach. He's very fired up about this game also, and for a lot of reasons. Number one of which is he's a cornerbacks coach, and we all saw how the cornerbacks played as the year went on last year, and whatever that coverage was that Ohio State was employing, or lack of coverage, right. Some people might say. And then past that, Urban Meyer, with his ties, as you outlined the other day in your story, with his ties to the University of Cincinnati, from his dad graduating from there to him graduating from there to having a sister who works there, it's there's a lot of like hometown feel to this matchup. But as I told someone on a radio interview earlier today, Urban Meyer would be fired up if they were playing Mankato State, and this is a this is a moment for the just like it was 2 weeks ago against Kent State, for Ohio State to once again affirm that it was worthy of that top 5, top 6 ranking in the preseason polls, and this will carry much more weight than the win over Kent State.
Yeah, there's no question. And Cincinnati is a legitimate, they're in that kind of what's the right word, purgatory almost in college football, that they were not they're not in the Power 5 conference. They're in the American Conference, which is okay, but it's not where they want to be. And they'd love nothing more than to beat Ohio State. Obviously, Ohio State doesn't want Cincinnati in the Big Ten. That's not going to happen,
right.
And unless something strange happens. But it's not exactly what Ohio State. They're not going to lobby for Cincinnati, put it that way. So This is Cincinnati's chance to make an impression. I mean, let's face it. Cincinnati's had a nice run. I mean, they've gone to 2 BCS Bowls, Sugar Bowl, and Orange Bowl. But no in-state team has beaten Ohio State since 1921. And Cincinnati came close. They in 2002, as you know, came within a couple drop passes of ending that undefeated season before it really got started. And so they feel they're going to come in with a chip on their shoulder. They're going to get every team gives Ohio State their best shot. Cincinnati's going to do that probably even more than most.
Yeah, I agree. And plus, they're, like you said, they're fired up for it. They've been pointing at this game, and I have to say this. So is Ohio State. I mean, you talk to the players; they've been pointing at this game also. They understand what's at stake. I was very impressed by the way Ohio State came out 2 weeks ago against Kent State, but of course that was because they were coming off a loss. They wanted to reaffirm themselves as being worthy. This is pretty much the same kind of general attitude, but against a heightened competitor in Cincinnati. So it's going to be an interesting match. I mean, Tommy Tuberville is one of only 2 coaches who has a winning record against Urban Meyer, who's played Urban Meyer more than 2 times. So there's that little chess match, or whatever you want to call it, that's going on between those 2 guys. But, this game has all the earmarks of being an interesting primetime affair, even though it is starting at 6.
It might not end.
Pre-prime time, yeah.
Well, with all the passing that's going to happen,
yeah.
I mean, this may be a game that stretches until 10 o'clock. Don't be surprised if this is not a 10 o'clock special.
A hootenanny, as they like to say. Yeah.
I think this is a big test for Ohio State. You can make the case. I mean, Maryland next week is going to be, in some ways, a very similar team. I mean, Maryland can light it up too.
Yes.
So this is good preparation for the Big Ten season as far as Ohio State is concerned. But Cincinnati is if they were in the Big Ten this year, they would be at least a middle of the pack team, I would think.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think they'd be in vying for top 6 type situation, just depending on where they are and who they play and where they play them. But I agree with you wholeheartedly, because any team that can score points has a chance against anybody. And these guys, their intention is to go out and score as many points as they can every week. I know that's everybody's intention, but they like to do it. They like to do it in rapid fire style. So, we'll be back next week to talk about that game and to talk about Ohio State's pending Big Ten opener at Maryland. Maryland, I remember when we were there in Baltimore for the Ohio State season opener against Navy, and where they played in Baltimore Ravens Stadium. Right down the road from that stadium was this lit up billboard trying to sell tickets, advertising the fact that Maryland's home Big Ten opener was going to be against Ohio State in a month, and tickets are available. So Maryland's been pointing to this one for a while.
Yep. You can probably get easy tickets up north too, right? You hear that?
Yeah, but I'm not a Coca-Cola guy.
All right, maybe that's as good a time as any to end this, right?
Actually, I'll drink Coca-Cola, Dr. Pepper, whatever you put in my hand. But I was just trying to be facetious, but I'll try even harder next week when we do our next podcast. Until then, this is Tim May,
along with Bill Rabinowitz. Thanks for watching.